Welcome to our second episode of Triple Sigma with Alex Feinberg. I'm your host, Alex Feinberg, and joining us today is a very special guest, Mr. Marc Lobliner. Marc and I have known each other for several years, and of everybody who I know in my network across professional sports, entrepreneurship, finance, incredibly successful men, Marc strikes me as the most energetic, most enthusiastic. I've never worked for him, but I would venture to say best leader of everybody that I've ever seen. He's become a professional bodybuilder, got his card within the last couple years. He is a successful serial entrepreneur, and I'll let him talk about that. And underneath it all, as we get into in the Triple Sigma podcast, is his mindset that has allowed him to be a Triple Sigma performer. The top 10th of 1% of basically everything that he's done, including probably what's most important to him, being a dad at home. Marc, welcome.
Man, it's good to be here, brother. Good to see you again. It's not in person. I'd rather be in person, but this will do. It's very good resolution. I can see you just great. Yeah, I appreciate all the kind words. But you are right.
I got an expensive camera.
Yeah,
I got an expensive camera set up.
That's all that matters. You know, I think you're right. Being raising children, and if you don't have children, coaching children, leading on to the next generation, teaching them the skills and mindset it takes to get to the next level to be successful in life. I think that would be anyone's greatest accomplishment, whether you're a little league coach, whether you're just mentoring a kid through like the Boys and Girls Foundation. There's My Father's Keeper, which is over in Nashville. Great organizations that really help young people grow up. So I think that's the thing, is that a lot of people garner all this knowledge and they learn all this stuff and they teach themselves. But I think the key is, how do we pass that on to the next generation? I think that's what really, really separates the greats from the people who actually pass down legacies and keep this culture of greatness going.
Now, when you were a young adult, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, did you know that you wanted to be a father like you are now, or did you know that you wanted to be a successful entrepreneur? Did you know you wanted to be a pro bodybuilder? What did your life look like? What did your ideal life look like as a young adult? And how did you get from where you were back then to where you are right now? What type of work did it take? What type of sacrifices did you have to make? What type of mental models did you have to build in order to convince yourself that you were on the right path, no matter how much pain you were experiencing?
Yeah, I think my upbringing is, you look at a lot of successful people. A lot of times they come from really humble beginnings. And, my beginning was mom's a drug addict, dad, type 2 diabetes, really unhealthy. And, my goal at 18 years old, lucky for me, God blessed me with my wife at 16. So I was already steadfast in, okay, I do want a family. I wanted the white picket fence. That was my goal. The steps to get there were not macro goal oriented. They were micro goal oriented. At that time, it was based on survival. So, you look at great athletes. A lot of them come from really humble beginnings. That's why you saw in the 90s, University of Miami, they got all these kids from the inner city to play. Amazing football players, but they couldn't get out of that inner city mindset because they didn't look to the future. They just looked to, how do I survive day to day? So at 18 years old, it was pretty simple. I want to go to college. I want to get out of my current situation. I want to graduate college, I want to get a good job, and I'll figure it out from there. And along the way, setting these micro goals of winning led to a lot of winning down the road. Now, of course, I lost a lot along the way, and anybody will tell you. Michael Jordan has a great quote, I made 10 game winners, but out of that I missed, and he had some absurd number of shots he actually missed. So, the thing about getting to that level is, step one, okay, I need to play football. And I need to play it exceptionally well because I'm undersized. I'm extremely short for the sport. I'm going to have to play it extremely well, and I'm going to have to stand out. And even then, my numbers aren't going to match up what the recruiters want. You play D1 baseball. You know what it's like. They look at numbers. They look at height. They look at weight. Even in baseball with my nephew, he was undersized as a junior in high school. He ended up growing a little bit. But, that was one of the main things. Well, he's only 5'6". He's only 5'7", when they're looking for a guy 6 foot tall because, statistically with the metrics, generally speaking, baseball players have a certain build, a certain phenotype. So when you body type, taller, slender, sometimes you have those big dogs who hit home runs like Cecil Fielder back in the day. But at the end of the day, you're looking at the certain body type. So I knew that, so I set forth and I just did whatever it took to get out of my situation. So as a teenager, I focused on sports because I knew that I wasn't going to get the money I needed to attend college with my grades. And so, I focused on sports. And that meant, if that meant training 6 hours a day, that meant training 6 hours a day. So that's what I did. We'd have, football at 1:30. 1:30 to 2:30 every day. I'd stay and I'd train with another player and a coach, probably another 2 hours. So that there we're at 4:30, and then parts of the year we'd be doing conditioning with the basketball team. So that would take us into 6:30, 7 p.m. So I'm training 6 hours a day. And did it help me? Well, I mean, science will tell you I was overtraining, but I ended up bringing a 5'7" physique frame, whatever you want to say, to a level where I was recruited by D1 schools. I ended up going Division III, but it allowed me to go to college, get most of it paid for, and be able to go to that next step, which was to, during college, I was personal training to make extra money to afford to eat. And I actually got recognized. One of my clients knew the publisher of Weider Publications, so Muscle and Fitness Flex, Muscle Fitness, Men's Fitness. And she was like, I know this guy's young. I know he has zero experience, zero education that you're looking for, but this, I think it'll work. Next thing you know, I earned a position at Weider Publications at 19 years old. So I'm working for this company. And then when I got there, and this is that mindset thing, first day I was there, I saw that the first person got there at around 7 a.m. And then the last person who got there at 11 a.m. left at 7 p.m. So what I would do is I'd get there before the first person and I'd leave after the last person, but I kept myself busy the whole time. I made sure I was doing things, doing the right thing. But it's funny because hours worked equals success a lot of the time if you're doing productive things. Obviously, just spinning your wheels isn't going to work. So I took a $30,000 territory. In 6 months, it's a $3 million territory. The company ended up selling for, I believe it was $300 million. A lot of that was my business, the business I brought in. So from there, I leapfrogged, started a business, Sylvester Stallone, Rocky, and it was his first supplement company called InStone. But however, I noticed at that time that I belonged working for myself. I got fired for having the right idea. They made a business decision, a stupid one, and I said to the board, this is a bad idea. And they agreed with me, but at the same time, that pissed off the CEO. So he kind of let me go but I ended up being right. They went bankrupt. It was a horrible decision. So after that, I started Scivation, which I sold in 2011. Scivation pioneered the intra-workout category. You see a colored drink in the gym? That's me. That's my category. We were the first ones to really hone in on intra-workouts. During training, people used to drink water or Gatorade. But we brought in this era of using amino acids as a substrate during training. And we had some data on wrestlers mainly, and performance and lean body mass retention. So we utilized that data to get it launched. We ended up funding our own study in 2009 that was published in 2010. So, I mean, yeah, it was just that. And after I sold Scivation, moved on, partnered with Tiger Fitness, launched MTS Nutrition. Ambrosia launched in 2015. We had two partners, Mike Rashid and Shantor Body. And Outright Bar launched in 2018. And I have a few other projects going on right now. But those are the main stepping stones. The thing I did is I didn't have a goal of being a pro bodybuilder. The reason I started bodybuilding in 2007 is because we weren't selling enough product. And at that time, we had message boards. So I'm like, I'm going to see if I could blog. Yeah, at that time, we didn't have video. We didn't have social media. Like, we had message boards, the bodybuilding.com message boards. I don't know if you're old enough to remember those, but that was the original place. So, and you couldn't do videos. So it was like you'd post pictures and just log your training. Like today I did 4 sets of 12 leg press, and it's just boring stuff, but it actually increased our business. And so I didn't start bodybuilding with dreams of being Dorian Yates or Ronnie Coleman. I started bodybuilding to sell product. Let's be honest, it was simply a means. It was free. All I had to do was post. I was training anyway. And all I had to do was put on, skimpy little Speedos and dance on stage and flex, and that was it. So for me, it was just an extension of what I was already doing, which is I love exercising. I love weightlifting, and it just made me diet a little bit more. But yeah, that's kind of the evolution. So yeah, I never thought I'd be a pro bodybuilder. I always thought the sport was weird. You got dudes on stage posing, being judged by people. That's weird. That's not normal. And as far as business, I never expected to own a business. I was quite happy in corporate America. I loved corporate America. I know we've discussed this before, but I love the whole Survivor, the TV show kind of mindset, who's gonna be the last one on the island, which means who gets promoted. And I was really good at inter-office politics. It was a strength of mine. So I actually kind of miss those days of just kind of competing. But no, but you get to compete at a macro level versus other businesses versus intra-office. So yeah, that's kind of my evolution. And my mindset was always, don't be poor. Like I think my mindset to start, now my mindset is just winning. You know, I just want to win. Like I play every day to win. Whether it's in business, whether it's as a father, whether it's as a coach. Like we just had a team who went to state championship in football that we coach at Legacy at Carbon. You know, we wanted to see them win. Unfortunately, it came up short in the state title game. But you know, we promote a culture of winning, and winning doesn't come without work. So you have to have that champion mindset to be able to succeed at anything in life. There are exceptions to the rule. There are those outliers. But if you read the story, I think Dave Ramsey interviewed I think it was 10,000. See, it's 10,000 millionaires. I think it was 10,000. And I think it was like 90% of them started out not being millionaires. So, but they just had that FU mindset, and they went out there and they got the job done no matter what. They made sure the job was done.
So that's really interesting when you talk about how much effort you put in to train or overtrain in high school to turn a $300,000 territory or $30,000 territory into a multi-million-dollar territory. And the one thing that I take from that isn't the amount of success that you had, it's actually the attitude that you had about putting in effort that you weren't necessarily directly or linearly rewarded with. Because, you know, in my experience with training, if I'm training 6 hours, but I could have gotten the same or better results in 3, I'm frustrated, like, man, why did I put that extra work in? And I think most people, if they work for somebody else, they're like, well, I built this company. How come I'm not getting hundreds of millions of dollars in the sale? I get a thank you. And, you know, if you had a little bit of equity, I'm sure it was a very small amount.
Yeah.
So how do you look at these experiences with gratitude and basically look at them as uniformly positive experiences when clearly, you know, you probably could have put in 50% as much effort and gotten the same out of it?
Well, I don't know that. I mean, we don't have a control group, right? Like, I don't know. All I know is I'm where I'm at today. So I've made a lot of mistakes in my personal life and my professional life. You know, I've made those mistakes, but it led to who I am today. Would I have the work ethic to continue to do what I'm doing at 44 that I did if I didn't do what I did when I was 22? So all I know is that, you know, hard work, you know, I've been in the hospital twice from exhaustion, not recently. I'm much better at life now. Like my friend Chris Gethin says, knowledge without mileage is bullshit. And he's right. You know, there's an experiential thing. So like, you know, people argue about the benefits of cold plunging. And I have a cold plunge in my backyard. But every morning I get up and I'm like, I come up with, Rogan talks about this. Every excuse is going through my head about why I shouldn't do it. So let's say it does nothing. I'm doing something at the beginning of the day that I really don't like to do. And I think humans have become soft. And I noticed that training athletes in an affluent area. Like you go to the inner city, these kids, they might have an attitude, but they got that, you know, I got to get out of here. You know, my attitude when I was a kid, I need to get out of, I'm going to do whatever it takes, even if it's 6 hours of training a day to do what it, these kids, it's like, I need you to eat a gram of protein per pound of body weight. And they look at you like, you know, if you would have told me that's all I need to do, like, I'm like, hey, you're training enough. That's cool. Because I know what I'm doing. I'm not like, I didn't know what I was doing when I was in my teens. Like, I had nobody telling me. I was just like, look, this is the era of Michael Jordan and Bo Jackson, right? Like, these guys train hard. Like, they're known for their work ethic. And Kobe was just coming on the scene. I think that was like my sophomore year of high school. And I'm like, okay, these guys, you're watching their news clips and they're talking about their training. And you're like, okay, man, I'm going to do what Kobe does. And so you just go out there. And Kobe he's famous for saying, he would get up at 4 a.m. every day because he could get another 3 hours of training in than his competition. So I'm like, dude, he's getting 3 hours extra. I'm only getting 6 hours a day. What if I did 8? What if I did 9? But that created that work ethic, and humans we become soft. Everything we have in life is too easy. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's awesome. I don't want to have to generate electricity. I don't want to live by candlelight. But dude, I mean, think about it. You don't even get out of your car to get your Starbucks. Like, people are lazy, people are soft, people are fat, people are weak. And the reason is there's no reason. The poorest people in America have smartphones. Like, it's like, man, I'm broke. And they're texting on Twitter, I'm broke. It's like, you have a phone. Like when I was a kid, I had to scrounge together enough money to pay $2 a month to get a pager. Like, really, you're poor? Come on. So we're at a place in society, we need to kind of create adversity. So like my son's a wrestler. Like his mentality, and wrestlers have to, like, when you're training athletes, you don't necessarily train them by science. Because we know that the first maximal set, let's say 1 rep shy of failure, it's getting you 100% of your muscle recruitment of what you get from that set. Second set's 50% of that. Third set's 50% of the second set, so on and so forth. But in the fourth quarter of the game, dude, the world is chaos. Dude, nobody gives a shit about science. They just care it's the fourth quarter. Can you ball? Can you play as good as you did in the fourth quarter? Can you mentally sustain? You're down by 7 points. There's a minute left. What do you do? So when you're training athletes, you have to go beyond that point of where you're actually deriving physical benefit, and you have to get that mental benefit. And that's where we have to create adversity in these comfortable lives we have.
You know, that's really interesting. And I think what strikes me about your viewpoint of this is it's like everything is a good idea if you just try hard enough.
Yes.
And and I think that in order for that to be true, I do think that the fact that you are a very healthy individual, and we can talk about your blood work in a second, I think that orients you to just enjoying life more than the next person. Because I've never seen you where your energy wasn't 10 out of 10. Even if you slept 2 hours the night before or 2 nights before, your energy always, excuse me, your energy always seems like it's 10 out of 10. And, you know, I think there's a mental component to that, certainly, because I'm sure you don't feel like that after long road trips with minimal sleep. But I think there's also a physical component to it where if you're healthier, you feel better. And if you feel better, the same thing that somebody thinks is a bad idea, you think is a good idea, because the same thing that stresses or tires the next guy out actually exhilarates you. Do you think that you've experienced that?
Dude, health is everything. And it's crazy that you bring that up, because I remember when I was a teenager, you know, to play football, I was 290 pounds at one point, right? Like but I still could move. I feel better at 44 than I did at 18. Like, that's how crazy it is. Because I've learned, if I knew what my kids are set. Like they have, my daughter is in college, and she's like, she gets up every day, walks to the rec center and goes trains. And then she's just mentally crushing it. And she's she's an elite soccer player who just was like, well, I'm done with soccer. I'm like, cool. Go make the bag, right? Like, go do your thing, go get that education, go do what you need to do. So I think there's a component of being healthy that unhealthy people just don't understand. My energy is high, not because I was born genetically elite in the form of health and energy. It's because I do those little things that people think don't matter. You know, I eat a certain way that makes me feel right, that works best with my body. And that's through years of experimentation. I started doing this at, let's say, 19, 20 years old when I really started focusing on health. I've had 20 plus years of honing in on what works best for me. So what I've done is I've kind of tweaked that, where every day, even when I'm traveling, I keep the same routine. I try to keep the exact same routine, minus if I have a cold plunge or a sauna, whatever it is. So I can't do everything right, but what of those 10 things I do every day can I take with me on the road? So yeah, I get tired. You know, I have off days, but 90% of the time, I also really like people. So when I'm out and I'm talking to people, I enjoy being around people. I'm not an anti-people person. I do like my alone time. But I think just truly enjoying life and knowing that every day could be your last. You know, we've been faced with so much mortality and morbidity in the last few years, and especially in my own circle. You know, I've lost some close friends. I've lost my mom recently. So I understand that number one is live every day. Like, I'm not saying go jump out of a plane and do some crazy sleep with 100 women, whatever. I'm not saying do that. Live every day like it's your last, being that if you die, you understand, okay, I'm cool with how that went. I would have done a little more, but yeah, I'm cool with that. And also realize that when you die, you really need to understand that your legacy is all that carries on. Nobody cares what kind of car you drove. Nobody cares how much money you have. It's the experiences that you give people when they're around you. So you want to leave that positive experience. And also, like in business, when I go to trade shows, this taught me a lot at trade shows. When I meet a customer and they wait for a couple minutes in line with me at the Arnold or something, and I have one chance to make a first impression. So if I fuck up that impression, I just lost a customer. if I do well with that impression, I gain a customer for at least a couple years, maybe life. So from a business standpoint, making sure that, and carry that into your personal life. You know, how do you want people how do you want people to remember you? How do you want people to think about you? Do you want them to think about you as that guy who gave them the cold shoulder? Or do you want them to think about you as that really nice guy who gave you a big hug?
That makes me think that you could be a politician if that's something that you wanted to do and potentially maximize your impact as you got older. And I know for the longest time you had no interest in that whatsoever, and no interest in being political. Is that something that you ever thought about?
Absolutely. My wife, so I'm too busy. I couldn't do it now, but I am definitely interested in running, starting as like a commissioner in the city of Brentwood. Because there's a lot of things in the community. The problem with city politicians and, well, national politicians, in the city, you normally get old people who just don't give a shit. They don't have skin in the game. They don't have kids in schools. Or you get like people who just have no experience, who just want something to do. People who never ran anything, who want a position of power. So I would come in there and I would be the guy everybody hates, because I would talk about the uncomfortable things. Like, hey, let's talk about property tax. Where is it going? I want to see every budget. I'd run it like a business. I'd pick apart everything, and then I say, hey, how come Williamson County is the richest community in Tennessee, yet our teachers are paid the least? Do you expect to get good quality teachers with that money? So there's things, and I'm not saying increase taxes. What are we wasting money on? Did we really need that $20 million tennis center? Would that have been better spent on the future of our children versus some fucking boomers playing tennis? There's certain community issues that I would definitely be able to benefit, but then I'd have to go up against another 6 council members who would be like, this idiot. And I'm young. Like, I'm a friggin' baby there. They're a bunch of boomers. They're a bunch of boomers who've lived here forever, who have no skin in the game, don't know how to run a business. And that's where I would come in. So absolutely. And then going on the national level, I just don't know if I'm ready for the smoke that comes with it. I see the smearing that goes, like Matt Gaetz and all these people who I see who are trying to do the right thing, who just get smeared. And just by me saying that, I guarantee your comments go, Matt Gaetz is evil. It's like, okay, take any politician. They get dragged. And I don't know if my family's ready for that. We've had enough issues just being on social media. If I was actually political, it would change the dynamic of my life. And it's a very good thing to do, right? It's a very altruistic thing to do for society if you're in it for the right reasons. But I mean, people get into politics to make a lot of money. That's why these Congress people like AOC go in there worth $10. They come out being worth $20 million. So it's just a grift. And I would actually go in there to change the world, to do something great, to help society. And you know, for me, my goal, honestly, where I think I could have the most impact ahead of politics, down the road, sell all my companies. And there's a lot of these schools in Metro Nashville that these kids come from broken homes. We just wrestled one of their teams last night. My son did. And you look at them like they come from, they have no dad in the household. Their main issue is surviving, eating, getting to school. So they need male role models. And so I would just get my teaching credentials and go teach in an inner city school and coach football. I think that's where I can make my biggest impact in the world beyond being a politician. It all starts local. But if I can get 100 young men playing football, let's say freshman, JV, and varsity total, I think I'd be able to make a huge impact in their lives and in the world. And if everybody thought like that, I think the world would be a great place.
It's really interesting the way you phrased a lot of that, because very little of what you've told me, and it's genuine, is selfish. It's very little, I want to accomplish this. You know, the only selfish desire that you've expressed is to not be poor, right? I want to get out of the situation that I'm presently in. And it seems like, you know, a lot of people may have started with that motivation. I want to not be poor. And then as they picked up experience, trophies, medals, accolades along the way, all of a sudden it switches to, I want to be recognized. I want to be known. I want to have fame. I want to have fortune. And, you know, to some extent you have fame, to some extent you have fortune, but that never seems to be a priority for you. It always seems to be, you know, what can I do for my family? What can I do for my community? What can I do for my country? Do you ever have to battle with a selfish inner demon, or, you know, have you been blessed to simply be fortunate enough to put others ahead of you along the way?
I wasn't texting. Let me show you something. I hope you guys can see this. This is it's blurry, but this is Eric Hazard, Mr. Football, Tennessee. He's one of our athletes. I don't need to win. Like, I'm winning every day vicariously through the kids we train. You know, that's it. I mean, I live vicariously through their victories. And you won't see us online like, we did this. It was, no. They worked. We were just a simple part of that. We just guided them in the right direction. So, you know, that kid's life's changed forever. He's going to Louisville. He's graduating high school early. He's going to actually be suiting up for their bowl game in 3 weeks. Like, we're coaching him for that right now. You know, this is a kid we put, 30 plus pounds on, got his 40-yard dash, came from the mid fives down to 4.7, 4.6. That's what I look at. Like, how can we make a lot of, and we have dozens, if not hundreds of kids we've done that with. So when you learn to derive joy, when you have children, you realize that, like, I'd give up all my pro card, my IFBB pro card, everything I've done, for my kids to have state titles. And we have 2 of them so far. Hopefully we get a 3rd in the next year or 2 with Thomas. But I mean, just that changes your life. It changes your trajectory. It builds that confidence to get to the next level. And let's say you're not Mr. Football. You're not Eric Hazard, who's an absolute beast, right? Let's say you're a JV player. How can we get you on varsity? How can we take a varsity player and get them to a D3 school who wouldn't have gone there before, who wants to play ball? How can we take that person who doesn't play after high school and give them the mindset to take that through life and accomplish great things? So that's what I look at. Look, I just run my businesses every day. I win in business, and that's fine. I'll win all I can. I'll do all the deals I can. I'll close the businesses. I derive pleasure from that. But as far as, like, from a life goal standpoint, an actual world-changing standpoint, how can we give these kids, how can we give them the tools necessary to make them successful? Because it's a multiplier, right? Like, let's say I've had my relative level of success. How can I help others achieve that success? And that's so I feel good when I win things. Yeah, it's great. Like, when I close a big deal, let's say I get a big retailer on board for Ambrosia. Yeah, I do a little happy dance, but I mean, why do we work in the first place? And there's different motivations. For me, I work to provide for my family. So as long as we have the resources it takes to provide, I think that's my main motivation in life. So I'm not motivated by personal accolades, fame, fortune. Being public is just another means for my main goal, which is my why, which is my family. And of course, my extended family, which is every kid I come in contact with throughout the day.
That's really interesting because, if you compare this to a consumer society that we live in, we're inundated with messages that try to convince you that that luxury car is the thing that's going to make you happy. That nice watch is going to be the thing that makes you happy, or a bigger house, fancy vacation is going to be the thing that makes you happy. And, Mark, you could afford 10 fancy watches if you wanted to. Go pay in cash tomorrow.
I like my
you could
Apple
go.
Watch. It measures my friggin' everything.
It's the fanciest watch you can imagine, right? It's like,
dude, I got my heart rate on tap at any time. Show me one Rolex that can do that. Okay, this thing costs $400 and it's awesome. I'm an Apple Watch fan. I'm a fanatic.
Yeah, and so you've done a tremendous job in rejecting consumer culture or luxury goods culture. And I don't know if you've thought about this very much. I've personally thought about it, where I think luxury goods culture, which I'm sure many of the people in your Brentwood, Tennessee community have fallen victim to, tries to convince you that thinking about yourself is noble, and that the way that you can be happier is through the accumulation of material goods. Yeah. And I don't think that you've ever even been tested by that. Like, yeah, you have a nice house, but you live in your house. You have a nice car, but there are nicer cars out there. Have you ever dabbled with fancy, like actual luxury fancy things? Or have you been so fulfilled with everything else in your life that has never even crossed your mind? Oh, I should go get a Rolex.
Nah, it's never crossed my mind. I've never been motivated by it. No, I don't get watches. I just don't understand them. I mean, I'm not against them, right? Like, my partner Mike has this really nice Rolex, and I'm like, well, that looks cool, but it's just not functional. Like, even my wedding band, I have a decent one when we got married, but I hate wedding bands, so I wear this rubber one from Barbell Bands. Shout out to Barbell Bands. I have like 10 of these in different colors. So I think there's a want and a need based personality. And I'm more of a need based. Now, there's some things I want, but they're usually functional. Things I'll use, like a cold plunge or a sauna or a Roomba that vacuums your house. It's like a mechanical wife. Like, those are great. Like, those are great. Like, I love my Roomba. That was our big Black Friday purchase this year. But I mean, unless it's something I need, I just have. I mean, dude, I have like, I have luxury. I have an Nespresso. I have a really cool air fryer. Like, I have a Traeger grill. Everything I have that's luxury are things that actually have function, but they just do things I need it to do. So it's just not me. And car wise, like, we have that Yukon, but we can fit like 10 kids in it. It was either that or a minivan. So we had a minivan actually, and it's still being driven by my brother-in-law. So the Honda Odyssey is still kicking. But I mean, up until 2018, I mean, I had a Ford Fusion, loved it, still going. It's still being driven by people in our company. So, I mean, I'm not materialistic. It just never crossed my mind. I mean, I just want to be comfortable and happy, and that stuff cars are cool. People are like, well, you're just not a car guy. I'm like, everybody's a car guy. Everybody thinks Lambos are cool. I just don't see the benefit. I don't see how it's going to make me happier. Does it get me from point A to point B comfortably? No, they're uncomfortable as hell. Like, my Yukon's like a couch on wheels. It's just like, so I just never got it. I never bought into that. I'm not mad at people who do. Like, yeah, but if it puts you in debt, I think I saw a thing on Instagram. They interviewed a Lamborghini dealer, and he said a majority, if not like 99% of the people who buy them can't afford them.
It's insane.
It is. And you look at, you just look at like Zuckerberg. I think it was Warren Buffett drove the same, this guy's, now Buffett is, I consider him mega rich, like holy shit rich. He drove the same Cadillac for like 20 years. Finally, he had to buy a new one, the same car, but a later model, because his daughter told him it embarrassed her. Like, it was embarrassing. Like, your dad's Warren Buffett, and you're embarrassed by his car. He just didn't care. I don't think really rich people really care about that stuff. They're more driven by accomplishments than they are material things.
And it shows you that the rat race is really meant for rats to compare themselves to each other. And what I'm reverse engineering through observing you, through observing myself, is when we go out in public, your physique is obvious. You have veins popping out of your biceps. And so people look at you differently than they'd look at you if you were 25 pounds overweight every day. People in your community know you as, oh, that's the Instagram dad, that's the social media dad. And when you go to work, you work for other people, but you're also the boss. Yeah. And you're respected within your own household. And so I think when you look at the major checkpoints for what most men have to determine, are they successful or are they in need? Everybody respects you for the most part. Everybody looks up to you. They treat you with respect or deference on a daily basis. They pump you up. Your ego's constantly, getting beaten down probably on social media, but getting massaged by people who have to interact with you in real life. And so there isn't this void that many men in corporate America feel about, I think if I buy this thing, I'm going to feel better. You actually have almost a surplus of dopamine coming into you, and probably serotonin and probably oxytocin, all of these feel-good neurochemicals that people try to acquire through purchasing things, you actually have a surplus of. And what that does is it feeds into a flywheel where you're incentivized and encouraged to continue giving it your all every single day, to continue that influx of feel-good emotions that everybody wants but nobody can actually acquire through buying some overpriced good that a merchant sells to people who realistically can't afford it.
You couldn't be more correct, and you see it a lot of times in fitness Instagram. Like, I think he's Wes Walker. He goes and he buy. Oh, I have these Lambos. I got $40,000 in my handbag. It's like, okay, that's great. what have you done today to make the world a better place other than just spew toxic nonsense? And that's what you see a lot of. Like anytime I see, now it's gotten to the point when I see someone driving a fancy car, I'm thinking to myself, wow, that's aspirational. No, I'm thinking to myself, man, that guy's in debt. And then you always find out, like with Cali Muscle, right? Like the cars weren't really his. They rent them or they can't afford them. They run their credit through the drain. They get the cars friggin' repossessed. Like you find out that everybody who promotes that lifestyle is a fraud. And the real ones, the one with real money, they're the ones flying under the radar. I don't care. Like somebody commented, I read the YouTube comments, which is probably I probably shouldn't. But someone's like, oh, you're just jealous of this guy such and such because he's got more money than you. I'm like, I don't know how much money he has. But okay, I'm poor. It's like, I mean, if you truly are comfortable with your position in life, whether you have $20,000 in the bank or $2 million in the bank, that shouldn't bother you. Like, why do you care if people perceive you as wealthy or not? Your wealth is your business. Like, nobody has to know what I have in my IRAs. Nobody has to know any of that. All you have to know is, okay, here's what I'm providing. If all I can provide is a picture of me standing next to a Lambo, give you some fake fucking motivational speech, then that's a problem. I see that as an empty existence when I'm all about getting the bag and promoting how rich I am. What's crazy is how many people pay these people to be life coaches. When it's all a facade. 99% of the time, I don't know the exact data, don't fact check me, but you find out it's happened more times than even Dan Bilzerian, we found out like his story was fake. It was all fake. Like it's daddy's money. He didn't earn shit. I won it all in poker. I'm like, what kind of poker was this man playing? And so you always find out if it sounds too good to be true and the get rich quick, the easy path. Bro, there's no such thing as passive income without active income. You need active income to create passive income. I can't just maybe with the early Bitcoin stage. Okay, that's lucky. But how many people have that happen? We have that one moment, that lottery moment where they're just like, oh, I got all this money. No, you talk to people who've actually made it, and they all have a story that sucks. Like, hey, for me, I missed my first 2 kids' first steps, right? Like that sucks. Can't get that back. But I'm where I am today. Is it worth it? I'd say probably, because my kids can go to college now. My kids can not be in debt for their life because I worked really hard and I sacrificed. But I've never met, I have, but very few. You're talking like the less than 1 percentile of people with things who aren't faking it. They have a story that sucks. That's like, yeah, I slept in my warehouse. I slept in my car. I did this. I had to do this. It's just everybody has this story that you're like, dude, to make it, you need to suffer. And our human condition is to get as much possible from as little work possible. But sometimes you have to overwork. And even if it's too much, I'd rather have too much work than not enough. Because too much, at least I hit what I needed. If I'm not enough and if I go here, that's fine. If I'm here, that means that I didn't hit it. Like I'm not going to be successful because I didn't hit that marker. So I'd rather overshoot it.
Yeah, that's you have a unique way of approaching all of these ambitions that you have, and I would never bet against you. And one thing that's also interesting about the mindset that you have versus the mindset of other people who've been successful, whether it's Michael Jordan down to me, is I don't get the sense that you have a chip on your shoulder, right? A lot of successful people are motivated by, oh, this person doubted me or they told me I couldn't do that. And over the last 30 minutes, including the last couple of years that we've known each other, you've never told me a story of this person doubted me and I wanted to prove this person wrong, which I look at as a little bit of dirty fuel. It seems like your fuel has almost always been clean. Have you been hiding some of these redemption stories from me, or how
there definitely are. There definitely are people who drove me, but I look at that as fuel. Like, I told the guy who fired me at Instone, John Arnold. To this day, I hate that guy. I don't hate anybody but him. Like, you ask me who you hate. Like, and I've been told things that just kind of build it. Like, you'll never run a mainstream company because you're too in your face. You're too aggressive. You're too opinionated. I'm like, okay, tell that to Elon Musk, right? Like, it's one of those things where that's what drives me. I've been told that, like, there's a company called Nutrex, who actually was really big, and I put the partners together. Never got a finder's fee. I should. Jeff McCarroll and Jens Ingenol, and I put them together. And one of the things is at that time, I heard this secondhand, but Jens's girlfriend at the time was like, said something negative about me. And like, oh, what does that guy know? Like, he's just a loud meathead, whatever. And then Jeff went, no, hold on. That guy's not just a loud meathead. And he kind of stood up for me. But I heard that story, and I'm like, oh, that's how she perceives me. Okay. And then, I had a partner tell me once that I'll never take a company mainstream because I'm too niche. I can't think like that. And then I'm like, so I get my products into Sprouts and, Walgreens and these other big stores, right? So I do use it as fuel. Now, I wouldn't call it a chip on my shoulder, but it's just kind of like if you keep succeeding along the way, you'll inadvertently prove some people wrong, right? Like, the Instone thing with John Arnold, that was the one where I'm like, yeah, but what am I going to prove him wrong about? He just didn't like me. Like, I just wanted to go out and be more successful than he is. I wanted to make him look poor. I'm like, oh, okay. It's kind of like that old story, like Pumping Iron is an epic, iconic bodybuilding movie with Arnold. And Mike Katz, in one story, like he'd go to school and he was small. People would call him like Jew boy and all this stuff, like little man. And then he just got motivated and he starts running around the track, runs around the track, and then he starts lifting. Then he becomes a huge, monstrous pro bodybuilder, champion bodybuilder. And it's kind of like that thing that it's just that extra motivation. But I mean, you don't need that when you have kids, right? Like, you don't need a chip on your shoulder. You just need to know that you got mouths to feed. And for me, if that doesn't motivate you enough, then I don't know what will. Like, having kids is a life hack for being successful, because you're not just providing for yourself. You have to make every decision with the intent on providing for and being the caregiver of your wife and your children.
Now, if you didn't want to work, you could still provide for your wife and kids, working substantially less. Or, when you were on the cusp of being admitted to the hospital for exhaustion, I'm sure you felt terrible along the way. I'm sure cutting, before your bodybuilding shows is a miserable experience. Have you ever thought about quitting, not in life as a whole, but just quitting that particular day and say, you know what, I set out to accomplish these 15 things and I'm just not going to do it today?
Well, I think that's what separates the champions and people who do it consistently. Like, I haven't missed a workout in over 30 years. Since I was 13 years old, I've never missed a planned workout. Even when I was like, I've never been sick enough to miss a workout. I think one time I had the flu in like 2006, but I never got like that week-long sickness. So I've never had to miss a workout. And I think, but there are days, like I'd say about 20% of the time, I'm like, I don't really feel like training today. Like, everybody thinks that there's this love for like, no, man, sometimes you don't want to go. Like, I was just telling someone at the gym today, like the cold plunge, like I gave myself 20 reasons this morning not to go in it. But it's like, what does that say about me if I can't commit to something and do it? So yeah, of course, dude, you always want to quit. Quitting is easy, but I think it's more the mental game. And for me, I actually enjoy the dieting for bodybuilding. I enjoy it because it forces you into a routine. It forces you to adhere to things. And even when I was getting ready for fights, like when I was boxing, like, that was awesome because, man, I hated it. Like, I'm not a fan of that kind of training. It's hard. It's VO2 max for an hour and a half. Like, you're going and you have to, and while you're tired, you have to hit these crazy combos. You have to stay mobile. You're tired. Your hips are killing you. And you have to stay mobile. You have to move around. You have to not get hit in the face. And then you spar after an hour-long training. Like, you're sparring. You're already tired before you go in. You got 12 rounds of sparring. What are you going to do? So I hated it every fucking time. I hated every session of boxing. I love fighting. I love the sparring part, but you're tired. Like, you're exhausted. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't enjoy it one bit. But I do think that life is, have you looked, like, we're in America. Like, America is so awesome. And then you watch things like suffering, like what's going on in Haiti right now and has been going on forever, and Syria, and the amount of suffering in this world. I'm not saying that's how we should live, but that's how humans are used to living. Like, throughout our evolution, we've never had it this easy. So I just look at it like we need to create that adversity. And if we just did things we'd like, would I calm down on work? I told you my goal is, and I'm not there yet. Like I got another probably 5 to 10 years, and my goal is to just go and teach and coach, and that's it. Like that would be it, but not have to worry about my paycheck from the Metro Nashville School District. You know, to be able to take that money, maybe donate the entire salary to the football. Like, okay, I'm getting whatever, 70 grand a year I think they pay. I'm going to take that. I'm going to use it to buy better equipment for the football team. And that would be my goal. I don't need it. Like, they need it more than me. Dude, you don't understand how much these kids suffer. Like, their lives, like, we played in a Metro. So Page High School is the team we coach. We're coaching a couple others next year, but so we were at every game, and we played a Metro Nashville school. Dude, their side of the stands was empty with, like, no dads. It was sad. It was really sad. And these were good kids. They just don't have that role model. They don't have that leadership. And that's not their fault. They're thrown into this world in a situation where if they could just find one strong male, or maybe a group of them, right? It doesn't mean a one, to actually help them and show them how to be a man, we're going to lower the crime rate. We're gonna create some awesome leaders. And you know, I look at it like that. Like I hate to throw it, but these poor young black men are just led without, they don't have a leader in their lives. And then you wonder why the crime rate in the inner city is so high. It's not because they're black. It's because society, the system that they're in, beats them down from the beginning. Stuff that my kids don't have to experience in Brentwood, Tennessee, they have to experience from the day they're born. And that's something we can fix. We just need more good men to go into these situations and help fix it.
You know, Mark, I can tell, even though I've never worked for you, I can tell that you're an amazing person to work for, because every time I'm around you, I just get pumped up. You know, things that I think are like maybe not a great idea. I'm like, no, I could do that. I could go on that journey with Mark. For our viewing and listening audience, if they want to hear more about Mark, or maybe if they're in the Nashville, Brentwood area and they want to be coached by you, or their kids to be coached by you, how can they learn more? How can they get closer in touch with Marc Lobliner?
Well, I mean, dude, just stop by. Like, I'm normally, like, you know, my schedule sucks. Like, it's so bad. So we have classes every day. It's Legacy at Carbon. It's within Carbon Performance in Franklin, Tennessee, and you've been there a few times. So we have classes during the school year, 3:30, 5, 6, and 7. And we also, during the mornings, we actually are more on-site. Like Mondays and Fridays, we're on-site at schools. Friday morning, for the longest, we had Centennial Baseball. So, I mean, Legacy at Carbon would be where you'd come. So if you're ever in the area, just hit me up at any social media. I check all my DMs, and it's not like a weird bot system. Like, I do have some auto replies where you get a free book or something, but, like, I got that program. It's awesome, by the way. Because I don't charge for content. I just charge for, like, supplements. That's how I pay my bills. So, like, I give a lot of free content. But yeah, I mean, if you hit me by DM and you're stopping by, I'll go out of my way. I've done it with probably 20 or 30 people from Twitter or X, Instagram as well, like, or just plan it. Like, unless I'm traveling, I'm usually at the 3:30 and the 5 o'clock at Legacy every single day, and the Saturday morning at 10 a.m. But that's the fun part. And watch the kids train. Like, that's the funnest part, is you get to watch these kids just develop and train. And yeah, it's an awesome experience. I mean, I encourage everyone, even if you don't have kids, like, go coach a youth sport. Like, if you played football in high school, go volunteer at the local youth football program, be an assistant coach. Like, it is the most rewarding thing you'll ever do. Like, I coached all my kids in wrestling, soccer, and foot. Now my youngest plays football. I've been coaching him the last 2 years, and it is the most rewarding thing, not just for my kid, but just seeing these other kids throughout the season develop, learn new things. You know, our offensive line and defensive line, they know more moves than most high schoolers. Like, we know how to combo block. We do all the cool stuff. We know how to step correct on pass pro. So, I mean, it's just, I encourage everyone to give back to your community by coaching sports. It is by far the greatest part of my day. It is every day. It's the greatest part of my day.
Yeah, that's something that I'm really looking forward to doing over the next few years.
I heard you know how to play baseball. I heard you're okay at
baseball.
baseball.
A little bit. Yeah, I've done some cameo coaching over the summers.
Really?
I'd like to do more of that.
You played for this mediocre team called Vanderbilt. I heard they're okay at baseball.
They are not bad.
Hey, just do what Corbin did, man. All you have to do is just do what he did and you're fine. Except don't do the crazy stuff like during practice measuring little Billy's velocity every pitch. Can you imagine if you brought that to Little League? Like, man, you only
I
make
don't think
44
I'd
or
be the
60
one bringing
throws.
it. I think it's already there. I think that.
Dude, it is. So we coach. We actually just had one last night, but we coach an entire we're the training arm of a youth baseball program locally in Franklin, and even the B teams are pretty friggin' intense. And those are the ones I really love training because the B team does have a chip on their shoulder. They are mad they didn't make the A team. So they're the ones who, even at 8, 9 years old, they're giving you more than the A teams. So I really love training those kids because their goal is to progress. And the A team, sometimes they get complacent by the time they get to high school, they're the B team because they already got it. And the B team's like, man, I'm going to train 10 hours a day. I'm going to do everything it takes. I'm going to do the strength stuff. I'm going to do everything. And that was my nephew. He's playing at University of San Diego now. So we should go to a game together in February in Cali.
Yeah, let's do it. When's it going to be? Where are they playing?
I think their season. So they're in San Diego. He played for Kansas State for 2 years, got in the portal. Jaden's, I'm looking forward to it, man. He's going to actually catch this year, which is his natural position. And yeah, they're at University of San Diego, but I'll get you a schedule. And you could, at the meantime, come by Ambrosia HQ and hang out with those guys and maybe just hang out with Mike and, do some content. It's a fun time. It's a hell of a place, man. Talk about a fun place.
I love San Diego. Yeah, we can make a trip over to Mike Cernovich's Cigar Lounge up in Orange County too. It's not that far from San Diego.
I just went by Mike's on Sunday. He's awesome.
Oh, nice. Did you swing by on your San Diego trip, or were you up in LA?
I haven't gone to San Diego yet. I had to do a day at HQ on Monday. Had to do some content.
Okay.
We had a lot of stuff to get done and some meetings. So I'm like, let me fly in a day early and go hang out with Mike. And that was a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike's good people. I've known him. He's the one who got me on Twitter. So I kind of hate him for it, but here I am. My life would be so much less stressful if I didn't have the Twitter trolls. But it's dude, talk about a platform where you could proliferate and grow. I love what Elon's done to it. It's awesome.
And meet cool people because, I wouldn't know you without Twitter. I wouldn't know Mike Cernovich. I wouldn't know people who've become my in real life friends.
PDB.
The way that I do now.
I've been to PDB's house 3 times.
I hung out with him a few weeks ago at the election event, and yeah, he's great. He's actually a very different person in person.
You go to his house.
He's online.
You go to his house and they just feed you, bro. His wife's making the greatest food I've ever eaten. He's like, this is how Greek people eat. I'm like, this is great.
I know. We were out in New York. We were in New Jersey last week, and I was texting with him, and it would have been a little bit far to get out to Long Island. I was probably maybe 15 minutes. If it was 15 minutes closer, I probably could have convinced my girlfriend to take that trip out with me to Long Island. But at some point, I'll make it out there.
It's work. I mean, he's the nicest guy. I've met so many awesome people on Twitter, and even the people with no following. I'm talking about people you wouldn't know. They'll be like, hey, I'm in Franklin. I'm like, stop by. And I met a lot of beautiful people, great people. I can't express how fortunate and blessed we are to have social media. Yeah. And Twitter is by far the best people on earth. Instagram, Twitter is just the class of people. I mean, you're talking with I've helped senators with their friggin' training.
Oh, wow.
I've had senators email hey man, I'm like, yeah, I got you. And Pearl Davis, she's the pro man woman. Yeah, I helped her with her training a little. And Elijah Schaefer and I, really close friends, which is funny because he's anti-Israel. People perceive him as, but he's one of my best friends. We talk every day. Yeah, it's really weird how people perceive people or how they present themselves and how they are in real life. It's fascinating. But he's just amazing. So many good people. Tim Pool. I've met. I wouldn't trade that experience. Talk about a dopamine rush, being able to talk to all these smart, successful people. It's just, and they're all there. They're all there. Yeah. Everyone's there. And also shit post at the same time. It's great. It's amazing.
Well, Mark, I know you have a real job to tend to, outside of your shit posting, shit talking, and podcast experiences. To combine it. So, on behalf of our viewing audience, thank you very much for joining us on Triple Sigma. This has been an amazing experience, interviewing you, but, also just, sensing your aura, even though it is from thousands of miles away, just through the screen, is incredible. So follow Marc, interact with Marc, get his outright bars, be a Marc Lobliner fan. I think your life will universally improve. Drop any comments below, like, subscribe, obviously, if you've enjoyed the content. And looking forward to seeing you on our next episode of Triple Sigma, dropping in a couple weeks. Thank you.